Welcome to Epilogue Podcast, the show where we discuss some stuff that happened on a different show ages ago which nobody really cares about anymore.
Hello, I'm Portponky.
And I'm LeBloc.
Today we're discussing Deep Space Nine, Season 4, Episode 25, Body Parts. Quark's life becomes complicated after he mistakenly sells his corpse. Keiko O'Brien's baby is transporter planted into Major Kira.
Kira is pregnant.
Yes, she was already pregnant in the previous episode. Well, I mean, Nana Visitor was pregnant. That's why she stayed on the runabout.
You're breaking the illusion.
Oh, right, yeah, no, I mean, wow, Kira is suddenly pregnant. Which is one of my top Star Trek facts.
Go on.
In every TV series with Star Trek in the title, in the fourth season, one of the leading actresses gets pregnant.
Well, now I'm spoiled for every other Star Trek series.
Ah, but you don't know if it's worked into the plot or not.
Oh, okay. So someone becomes pregnant, but it doesn't mean it's written into the show.
Yes. So there's very specific wording there, because the original series has only 3 seasons, and in Enterprise, it has a 4th season, but this fact wouldn't apply, except Enterprise doesn't have Star Trek in the series title, it's just Enterprise. So we have to word it with shows with Star Trek in the title.
So writing an actress's pregnancy into a show can often be clumsy, but I like what they did here, how it creates this awkward situation and tension where it's not her child and they use sci-fi stuff to get a baby inside of her that's not hers. And it was a situation where she probably said yes right away. Oh, this child is about to die. Of course I'll take it on. But then there's so much responsibility there. That's a huge undertaking. But she didn't have time to think it through. And now here's the aftermath that we're seeing. And I really like what they did here.
It seems there should be a precedent, because people are unlikely to say no in such a situation.
Especially Kira. I can't see her saying, no, I won't save your child.
Which is kind of unfair. For example, if someone is bleeding out and they need a kidney, and there's only one other person there, and you say, can I just borrow one of your kidneys, or this person will die, is it moral to do that?
I don't know.
See, it's really difficult to say. Yeah,
Who's going to say
happened.
no?
Exactly. Especially when you phrase it in that way, that their death will be on your hands.
No pressure, but this person will 100% die if you don't agree.
Yeah, at the same time, not
and she's on the
agreeing
job.
Oh yeah, not agreeing should be a valid choice.
Certainly, that will completely disrupt her life and what she has planned, and she should be able to say no.
Well, I don't know if it's moral to even ask, because as soon as you ask, someone is going to say yes. I don't know, there's a lot of personal rights that are sort of skimped over there. I mean, it's good that she said yes, so the baby is not dead, because that would really mess with the O'Brien family.
But if anyone's going to have a dead baby, it's going to be O'Brien.
Yes, it would probably, but yep. What a charming thing to say. Although accurate, I suppose. So now Kira is pregnant with little baby 2, O'Brien. And I love the scene where Bashir's explaining it to O'Brien, and you can just see the look of hopelessness and confusion on his face. Like, he knows something bad is happening to him and to his family, but he's just trying to figure out how bad it is.
How it plays out in his face is beautiful.
I think if you turn the audio off and watch this show silently, O'Brien's Colm Meaney's acting still would come through just as strong because it's all face work. He does it so brilliantly.
They barely have to write any lines for him. He'll do it all with his face.
Poor O'Brien. Poor Keiko O'Brien. It was a really sad episode for her.
It was, and that line of hers, I shouldn't have to make appointments to be with my own child, that's really rough because she's coming from a situation where she was capable of carrying a child and bringing it to term. She's done that before, she was healthy, and then this thing happened, and now that was taken away from her. So it wasn't as if she could never have her own children and then she could only depend on a surrogate. This was taken away from her, so it's even worse.
Pregnancy is a messed up time in a family's life anyway, full of worry and dread and fear, and yep, it's super bad for the O'Briens. And now also for Kira. But you have to admit, it's a nice way of wiring together Kira's Nana Visitor's pregnancy into the plot.
Yes, really elegant way to do it. And now they can create tension with her now living there and how that's going to change her life.
It's only for a few months. But Jordan's gestating 5 months, they said. Nice and quick. So there was also an A plot.
Yes, there was.
And it was a Ferengi A plot.
Yes, it was.
Now, Ferengi A plots are either reasonable or terrible. Which would you say this is?
Firmly in the former of reasonable.
Well, I would agree. It was a good laugh. I chuckled quite a lot. It has Brunt and Garrick, so you got a smacking of a few extra bonus characters there.
It's tough to go wrong when you have Brunt and Garrick, especially Garrick talking about murdering people.
And gardening. Who's the gardener?
There's actually a lot of overlap between gardening and tailoring, how it's about one person having control and deciding how things play out and how things are laid out.
They're both personal services.
Much like killing someone.
Well, kind of. It's a bit impersonal.
I love when he runs through the list of the ways he's demonstrated to Quark how he could be murdered.
What was wrong with poison food again?
Oh, I forgot.
He wouldn't
eat it?
Eat it, yeah. The weird thing about this plotline is it seems fairly obvious that Brunt was in league with the doctor that diagnosed him.
I didn't make that connection. So maybe it is obvious, but I didn't see it.
Well, I'm not saying that he necessarily was, but if you look at who benefits and why, it seems like he maybe bribed the doctor.
What was his excuse for not getting a second opinion? It seems as if you were diagnosed with something 1 out of 5 million, I believe were the odds. You should probably see someone else to confirm that.
He didn't want to see Bashir because Bashir doesn't charge.
Oh yeah, he's
and
a
isn't
stupid human.
Yeah. Which is silly, because if they don't charge, that's really a good price.
What's the harm? What do you lose?
Your dignity.
That's time out of his day he could be making profit.
We had a lot of profit to make in a short time.
Okay, so in this episode we get rule of acquisition number 17. The contract is a contract is a contract, but only between Ferengi.
We got it about 10 times.
Yes. Doesn't that hurt acquisitions? Anyone That's a freely available rule. Everyone can find out about it. So I would hesitate to ever do business with Ferengi if I'm not Ferengi. There's no promise of them honoring a contract which would hurt acquisitions outside of Ferengi people.
I don't think it would be that big a problem. If you know the Ferengi, you know what they're like, and you'll know to do a deal up front, not make a contract and hope that they carry through. And if you don't know the Ferengi, then yes, you'll probably be exploited if they think you're not worth much.
That's true. They're not shy about their goals.
Putting it in a rule won't change much. Ferengi is going to be a Ferengi.
And there was another rule.
Oh yes, number 239. Never be afraid to mislabel a product.
Seems terribly illegal.
Yes, but still, you shouldn't be afraid to do it because it's profitable. This is true even for us now. We're mislabeled all the time for money. For example, Volkswagen cars at the moment were mislabeled as being carbon efficient.
I'm going to guess they are not.
Oh, no, not at all. It was extremely rigged. They've sold millions of cars that are vastly outside of the acceptable carbon emission standards.
I have a weird one. So Red Bull is no longer labeled as giving you wings. And I'm wondering if they did that because they were afraid of lawsuits, or maybe someone did sue because it did not actually give them wings.
I don't know. I wouldn't think you can sue for a product which is labeled as doing something patently ridiculous.
Hey, it says it on the can. Well, it used to, not anymore.
But they could just say it takes 300 years.
Now it says something plain, it vitalizes body and spirit or something.
Yeah.
It makes me curious, though, if someone made moves to sue them over not sprouting some wings.
I could believe it in the United States.
Oh, for sure.
Turns out you two are on the money. In 2013, a citizen of the United States named Benjamin Carruthers started a false advertising lawsuit against Red Bull, causing them to make $13 million of payments to apparently defrauded customers. However, the lawsuit was not about physically growing wings, but about the slogan giving a false impression of the caffeine content of the drink.
This one about never being afraid to mislabel a product, I had a weird plot idea that reminded me of something you might think of.
I'm intrigued. Please go on.
I thought it would be good if Quark delivered the desiccated remains to Brunt, but they blatantly weren't him because he's still alive. Get Ron to do it and say, oh yeah, Quark's dead, here's the bits of him. That wouldn't make much sense because Brunt is not a complete idiot, but I just wanted to see it go in that direction.
Are remains clearly defined in legal terms? Maybe it could just be his waste.
They've shown the discs before. They're like little coasters.
Right, but he could put his waste in those discs, theoretically.
You talking about poop here?
Yes.
What would that achieve?
Well, he could fulfill the contract if remains aren't clearly defined.
Oh, okay. I think if you tried to fob off Brunt with freeze-dried poop, he might have something to say about it.
This episode made me think of The Merchant of Venice, the whole pound of flesh thing. Spirit of the law versus the letter of the law.
Kind of, but it totally goes in the opposite direction.
Yeah, it does not go. It does not follow Merchant of Venice. But that idea in the beginning, no, you made this contract, I want my pound of flesh or 52 discs. You said you would do this, give it to me now.
Yeah, okay, there's a lot of Shakespearean influence in Star Trek. So, yes, it's probably the same vein. But it's not a pound of flesh, it's 100% of the flesh in bits.
All pounds of flesh.
So you can't use the same argument, oh, what if you cut a little bit too much?
I'm really glad Quark didn't have a speech about do we not bleed and so on. It would not fit this episode.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been good. Instead, he got blacklisted.
So what do you think of that ending? Maybe that's unfair because you know where the show goes after this. So maybe I shouldn't ask.
I like it when things happen and stick around.
I also like that.
Character development is good, but if it's always just internalized to the characters, e.g., in the last episode we saw Bashir growing up a little bit, that's great, but sometimes external changes really help sell it as a moving, breathing universe rather than something that gets reset every week.
Especially with a character like Quark, who's motivated by these external things, these materialistic and focused on that. So if you want to shake things up with his character, shake things up outside of him is effective.
Well, he's not going to change. He's who he is. He's completely entrenched in his ways. He hasn't had really very much development since the start of the series because he's fairly developed already. He's not got much growing up to do, in other words.
He's set in his ways.
So yes, it's good. I think that's maybe why a lot of the Ferengi episodes never really shine, because Rom is good. He's got a lot of development going on. He's growing as a character, but Quark is fairly stoic. So the Ferengi episodes either amount to not a lot, or they just really great.
We have a lot of growth in Nog as well.
Yes, he started as a non-character, and now he is a character. So that's 100% growth.
It's great that even at his lowest, where he lost all his assets, he lost the bar, and then the crew comes in to chip in and reestablish his bar, trying to help him out. Even in that moment, he can't resist trying to wring out some profit. That was a nice touch, how he wanted to charge them.
He's a purebred Ferengi. Which I think is why Brunt despises him, because he's living his Ferengi life outside of the Ferengi system. He does these non-Ferengi things and meshes it with his Ferengi life.
And that bothers him so much because Quark is outside of Ferengar. He's
Ferenginar.
Ferenginar, whatever. The Ferengi homeworld.
Come on, try to pretend to care.
But he's outside of that, and yet he's still staying true to his Ferengi heritage, but then also veering in some ways, and so that really bothers a traditionalist.
He's an expat, in other words.
Yes.
And Brunt is a nationalist and doesn't like it.
How dare people live their lives not in a way that agrees with him?
Well, that is a common complaint from lots of people all the time.
It was nice to have 2 Jeffrey Combs episodes where I was aware it's him so close together, and to see how well he can differentiate his characters.
He's good. Yeah, you don't notice because the episodes are usually a little bit apart. So when I first watched this, I didn't know that Jeffrey Combs was playing other characters. But when you know him, he really stands out. He's so cool. He's just kind of got that weird, condescending / creepy way of getting under your skin. Good old Jeffrey Combs. Do you have a quote of the show?
And you thought you had no assets.
I wanted to hate that. I always want to hate that because I hate endings where the true treasure was friendship.
Aw, but we have to count our blessings.
Yeah, no, we don't. I like it when the true treasure is treasure, or laser guns, or space explosions, or something.
I could choose another quote if you would like.
No, it's fine. I said I wanted to hate it, but I don't actually hate it because they have spent 4 seasons expressing how everyone really doesn't like Quark that much. He's become the social underdog, so that ending where people come in to back him up, even Sisko with his overwhelming hatred of all things Ferengi comes in and agrees to Quark's minimal fee. It works in this case. I'll let them off for using this sort of trope because
just this once.
It works. Yeah, it's good. It feels nice to see Quark. But I guess you're kind of rooting for the underdog now, and everyone loves to root for the underdog, even if it's just the fact that he's awful and has no friends, but then does have friends.
He secretly had a bunch of friends.
Who knew? I imagined a slightly different ending.
Oh?
Just the final last scene when Quark's going to say something and he just walks towards the bar, stumbling, looking around, overwhelmed with everyone helping. I just imagined in the last few seconds, Garrick jumps out from behind the Garrick and goes, "Wah!" And he's like, no.
Oh, I forgot to call it off. I expected something like that to happen when he woke up from the dream, where Garrick would be right there about to do something, and then he would shriek, "No, I don't want to die anymore," or something.
Oh, that would have been great. Garrick's just standing there with a knife or something.
I really enjoy when Garrick enters someone's room unannounced.
It's a shame they didn't tie up the Garrick plotline. I mean, presumably he cancelled.
Or maybe he didn't, and then they can... so he could die at any moment in the next... from any moment from now on.
Garrick's just going to run in and clothesline him really hard.
He's going to wait a couple of years and then murder him, because then he won't expect it.
Or maybe he was never going to do anything.
Make Quark work himself into a frenzy and have a heart attack?
Well, not even have a heart attack, just work him into a frenzy. Just sit back and watch. Garrick isn't... he's kind of a messed up guy. He would take pleasure in that, I'm sure.
He would never have to act on it. He could collect the money, and then if Quark ever complains, "Hey, I'm still alive, you haven't killed me yet," he could say, I'm plotting it, it's going to happen, don't worry. You could indefinitely put that off.
Kind of.
To some degree. I mean, you can't wait 5 years.
Yeah, there's a deadline.
If it's not in the contract, there's no hard deadline. That's Quark's fault for not drafting that.
Yeah, plus a contract is a contract is a contract, but only between Ferengi. So Garrick should have defaulted on it.
So we've had 2 episodes in a row that centered around a pregnant woman. I'm hoping we get a 3rd one for the next one. Which is
the famous pregnancy trilogy.
Yes. Famous pregnancy
Every
trilogy
show has a pregnancy trilogy.
to end out the season.
You know what? You're absolutely right.
So,
or are you?
Let's discover if the pregnancy trilogy comes to pass.
You'll have to watch the next episode and find out.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Okay.